Shalom, brothers and sisters in Messiah. Rafi Sweeney here with Apostolic Nazarene Israel and pastor of Apostolic Nazarene Bible Assembly in Orlando, Florida, a Messianic Israelite congregation. Today I'd like to discuss Adam's functional ontology, or in other words, why did the Creator create Adam? Over the years, I've learned many insights and nuanced layers to the stories of the Bible that have impacted my life. They've impacted my thinking and my way of relating to Scripture, and have impacted the way I think about things in general. I'm thankful because I believe that the things that I've learned have enriched my understanding of Scripture and have therefore enriched my life overall. Now, today, it's my longing to teach others to understand their Bibles. I really do want believers to understand the Bible and the incredibly rich message that it's trying to convey. Yes, it's a beautiful message of personal salvation, forgiveness of sins, and restoration unto inner peace with the Creator, and the promise of a bright future, hope and glory with the Creator, exalted be He. But I believe that the Bible is also so much more than that. A lot of times people read the Bible and they don't understand what they're reading. Things like context, culture, and audience escape them. They get confused. It seems cloudy. It's murky. They don't see the big picture. This is particularly true of the first 15 chapters of the book of Genesis. It makes very little sense to people far removed from the culture. They read it, but it seems disconnected from the chopped up. They don't see how the individual pericotes are related to one another. They don't see the bigger picture, so they miss the intended unified flow of the narrative. What is the Garden of Eden in Genesis, and the flood, and the Tower of Babel, and the blessings of Abram by Melchizedek have to do with one another? They don't seem related. They seem like four different stories rather than four parts of a single storyline. So people fail to see the cohesion of the narrative as it moves along. This is why people don't realize that Genesis 1 through 15 is actually telling us the chapters of a single unified story. What's missing is the larger context behind the narrative. That context is the legal dominion mandate, that is, the king-priest authority theme. Beginning with Adam and climaxing with Melchizedek, king of Salem, blessing Abraham in chapter 14, and immediately following that is the famous cutting of the covenant of the torch in chapter 15. The Genesis prologium is the prologue to the whole story. The Genesis prologium is the section of Genesis, chapters 1 through 11, climaxing in the incident at the Tower of Babel, and builds the narrative up to the calling of Abram, the man who became known as Abraham. The underlying theme has to do with the concerns surrounding dominion and king-priest authority. But people don't see this, and when you can't see this motif, the individual chapters of the story seem disconnected and unrelated to one another. The Garden of Eden, the fall of Adam, the expulsion from the garden, the Cain and Abel incident, the buildup of the nations, the angelic transgression, the great flood, and the Tower of Babel. These are all distinct details chronicling the transition and struggle of dominion authority through the early saga of human civilization. Genesis 1 through 15 is a single flowing narrative that serves as a preamble to the rest of the Bible. And all the episodes here are following a logical sequence in the development of the same theme, namely, the bearing of legal dominion authority delegated by the Creator, whose name is Yahuah Elohim, to His chosen and legally deputized agent in the earth. The question being answered in the Genesis prologium is this: who has the right? Who holds the divinely appointed legal right to bear the scepter of king-priest? That's what Genesis 1 through 15 is all about. But people miss this. They miss what scholars call the unified governing theme, or the governing hermeneutic. The governing hermeneutic is the grand theme underlying the sequence of events that unite the story. When one understands the governing hermeneutic, one is able to follow the progression of the story and understand what is going on beneath the surface. The ancient Hebrews could hear this story being told, and they had the correct context for understanding what was going on and what this was all about. We are disconnected from that culture. There are many details plainly given within the plain reading of the story, even when it is translated into English from Hebrew. So we can start to pick up on the theme, but it's difficult to see the theme clearly without being immersed in the culture. There are elements to this theme that are not explained in detail until later in the Bible. The Bible interprets itself, but you need the key of context. The early Hebrews and later Israelites understood that context. Understanding the larger unified governing hermeneutic would help the reader more fully understand the why underlying Yahuah's creation of Adam. What Adam's purpose for being was really all about to begin with. The functional ontology of Adam, his purpose for being. Concerning the question of the purpose of being, it's my belief that there is a larger context to consider that goes far beyond merely the creation of Adam and Eve, one that is far larger and far older. I believe that Adam and Eve, or more correctly, Adam and Isha, were actual human beings that existed long ago, about 6,000 years ago. I'm of the belief that Adam and Eve were actually created within the context of this larger and more ancient agenda. It is a cosmic agenda. So let me explain. Although I believe that this story actually is a retelling of a real event in history, I don't see the story of Adam and Eve as the origin story of evil and suffering, as it is often traditionally portrayed. What I mean is that I don't see the story as telling us the origin of the problem of evil. I see something bigger. I hold to the belief that the cosmological problem of evil began actually before Adam and Eve, before they were created. What's more, I also believe that Adam and Eve were specifically created to rectify the problem of evil. What do I mean? In other words, sin and death did not begin with Adam and Eve, but existed long before their creation, and they were created to help the Creator undo the problem of sin and death. I believe that long before Adam and Eve, there was a period of time on this earth where there existed another civilization that held the authority over the earth. I call this period the Luciferian, because during this time there existed a kingdom ruled over by a being that people today call Lucifer. This Lucifer, who in Hebrew is named Halel ben Shachar, rebelled against the rule of the Most High and brought about a great cosmic war, with earth being the battleground. We learn of this in Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28. But we understand that the rebellion and the ensuing war happened long ago. Sin and death was introduced into the universe through the Luciferian rebellion, far back into eons past. It was not Adam and Eve who introduced evil into the universe, and sin was not first invented by them. Rather, long before Adam and Eve, there was a cosmic event that was initiated by that ancient being called Halel ben Shachar, the Shining One, the Son of the Morning, whose name was translated into Latin as Lucifer in Isaiah 14:12. Lucifer means bringer of light. Today, this being is still called Lucifer, but his original name is given to us as Halel ben Shachar, or just Halel. As a side note, I suspect this name may be related in part to the Sumerian Mesopotamian god named Enlil or Elil. But like I said, that's just a side note. Most people know who Lucifer was. He is Satan. Lord of the devils. Eons into the ancient cosmic past, this Lucifer, Hallel ben Shachar, was a god. I don't mean that the same way that I mean about the one supreme deity, Yahuah Elohim. No. But in Hebrew, the word Elohim can also refer to lesser gods, divine beings with a lowercase g. Lucifer was one of these lesser created gods that ruled on the heavenly council, the heavenly divine council. We learn this from Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 14 through 15, where the so-called stones of fire describe the high seraphs, members of the heavenly divine council. In fact, Lucifer was one of the chief elder gods that ruled as an archon over the divine council. He was permitted before the heavenly throne to stand in the glory presence of the Creator Yahuah. His worship of the Creator Yahuah was the highest above all of the hosts of heaven, and he was given a kingdom upon a planet to rule over at the behest of the Creator Yahuah, blessed be his name. Lucifer's kingdom was designated over the earth. He ruled this planet, but Lucifer rebelled against the Creator Yahuah and divided the heavenly council. When Lucifer brought about the cosmic rebellion, it ushered ruination into the created universe and brought about evil, suffering, and death. So you see, Lucifer, Hallel ben Shachar, was the inventor of sin and the inventor of suffering that sin brings about. It was Lucifer, Hallel ben Shachar, who became the Satan that first introduced sin and death into the created order. It was the Satan that brought about the cosmic corruption and resulted in the problem of evil. It was not Adam and Eve. In fact, it's my belief that the human race was created to rectify, tikkun, the cosmic corruption and the problem of evil. The word tikkun is a Hebrew word, and it means to fix, to repair, to rectify, and to restore something back to its original usefulness and purpose. So, the human race was originally intended to fix and restore the earth back to its original usefulness and purpose, back to its alignment under the rule of the kingdom of Elohim, and to live in fellowship with Yahuah Elohim in a restored cosmic temple. All right? If that didn't surprise you, get ready for the shocker this video is intended to show you. What was the Creator's grand purpose for humankind? The very reason why Yahuah, blessed be his name, created Adam to begin with. It was this: that the Creator, exalted be he, desires to isolate cosmic evil and eradicate it from his creation. And he has chosen to do that with the help of human beings by means of a covenant partnership. Humans were created to be the partners of the Godhead to destroy evil, clean up the universe, and co-reign in intimate partnership with him over that universe. That's why the Creator, exalted be he, created Adam and Eve. It is what we call Adam's functional ontology, his original purpose for being. If that was a shocker to you, if you've never heard it put that way before, you might be interested in hearing many other points raised by this ministry through this channel's videos and the local assembly where we offer oral teachings and printed literature. Our ministry focuses on the Melchizedek king-priest aspect of biblical truth, uncovering very deep things from Scripture regarding the divine counsel, believers' authority, sonship truths, and latter-day bridal preparation teachings relevant to these times. We are a Messianic Hebrew root teaching ministry, covering everything from two-house Commonwealth theology to kingdom dominion, to the battle of altars, to throne room worship, to spirit-filled charismatic ministry, deliverance, and restorationism. For those of you who may be new to this channel and are not familiar with our content, this ministry is seeking to build and establish a case for holiness and true messianic righteousness in the lives of messianic believers by appealing to a theology of active working faith based on the whole Bible as one seamless holistic revelation of truth, whereby we see all Scripture is by inspiration of the Creator and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, and for instruction in righteousness, that the man of Elohim may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works, coming away with a view of apostolic covenant theology founded upon the foundations of the apostles and prophets, with Yeshua being the chief cornerstone. May He grant you the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of Him, so that the eyes of your understanding may be enlightened, and so that you may know what is the hope of His calling, and what is the riches of the glory of His inheritance in the saints, and what is the exceeding greatness of His power toward them who believe, according to the working of His mighty power, which He wrought in Messiah when He raised Him from the dead and set Him at His own right hand in the heavenly places. Well, all right then, I'll end this right here, and I hope it benefited you, and that you got some good teaching from it. But with that, I'll close for now until my next video. May Yahuah richly bless you and be with you, and with all of those that you love. In the name of our wonderful Messiah, Yeshua. Shalom.